These are the new Sony ULT Wear headphones, but let's make sure you're not making a mistake if you're thinking about getting them. What's up, internet? I'm Brian McDuff, aka BMac, and welcome to another video. So yes, indeed, today we are going to be reviewing the new Sony ULT Wear headphones, the latest headphones offering in Sony's new ULT Power Sound audio lineup. But first things first, I do need to give a quick thank you and a shout out to Sony for actually sending out a pair of these Sony ULT Wear headphones for me to be able to check out and enjoy. So Sony, thank you. I appreciate you. But let's get right into it here, starting things out with the Sony ULT Wear headphones design and how they're looking when you're looking at them on the outside. The Sony ULT Wear headphones should probably look a little familiar, and that's because they look very similar in appearance and design to the Sony XB900 series of headphones that we've seen before. At first glance, the ULT Wears can look a little chunky, but they definitely don't feel heavy or chunky when you're actually wearing them. They are made out of plastic, but their overall build quality feels well built without any kind of creakiness or flimsiness. They are over-the-ear headphones with soft, smooth ear cushions that offer pretty solid passive noise reduction, which is going to help isolate you from the ambient noises and environmental noises around you. And that's even before you start using the active noise cancellation, or ANC, that we're gonna be talking about in a few minutes. And this probably has to do with Sony's thermofoaming process that they incorporate onto the ear cushions themselves. This allows them to remain soft to the touch, very padded, and at the same time wrinkle-free, which is allowing them to create a strong seal around your ear when you're wearing them, offering, of course, a better level of comfort, but also better noise reduction before ANC, like we were just talking about. You also do have a padded headband here with full rotational and tilt capabilities for the ear cups, all allowing for a strong and snug fit, while at the same time ensuring comfortability no matter what kind of head size or shape you have. And they also very easily collapse down to fit into the soft shell carrying case when you're traveling with them. In terms of colors, you are presented with 3 different color options on the ULT Wear headphones. You're gonna get the standard Sony black color, a white color, and a forest gray color. You're also getting the classic Sony touch-based track and volume controls built right into the touch panel on the back side of the right ear cup, which I personally love. I'm a huge fan of that. And for physical buttons and ports, you're gonna notice first off that you're getting a 3.5mm audio port for hardwired listening, which you could do with the included audio cable, and a USB-C port for charging the headphones using their included USB-A to USB-C cable. It is still ridiculously short. I mean, you're probably just gonna end up using a longer USB-A to USB-C cable you already have, but at least it's included. But do keep in mind that the USB-C port is only used for charging of the headphones with no kind of data pass-through. So if you're hoping to be able to stream lossless audio through that USB-C port, no such luck. I don't personally see that as a deal breaker here, especially considering the use case scenario I think these headphones were specifically designed for, but we'll get more into that in just a few seconds. You're gonna see your physical power and pairing button here, directly alongside a noise canceling ambient sound control toggle button, which you also have the ability of actually setting up as a quick access button with the Sony Headphones companion app, which is gonna allow you to control various features with several different streaming apps. So definitely be sure to check that out. It could be used for more than just a noise canceling and ambient toggle. And then last but most certainly not least, debuting with the ULT Wear headphones here, we do of course have the ULT button itself. But before we get to what that ULT button actually does, I do want to talk about some changes that have taken place on the inside of these headphones, which is adding to their overall level of performance. In the ULT Wears, you are getting the Sony V1 audio processor, which is ideally going to add to the sound quality that you're going to hear, but also adding to the active noise cancellation performance. And speaking of that V1 audio processor and the active noise canceling, I'm very, very happy with the ANC performance on these. They do a fantastic job of canceling out a wide range of frequencies in your environmental and ambient environment. I actually wore these while I was mowing the lawn the other day, and I was blown away by how great and how effective they were at actually eliminating the sound of the mower hum. You are also getting wear detection sensors in the headphones that are automatically going to pause the music when you take the headphones off and eventually turn off the headphones to conserve battery life if you forgot to turn them off. And you do also get spatial audio support with head tracking, but just do keep in mind that you are gonna need specific apps and specific setups in order to take full advantage of that. You do also have the option of invoking the Alexa voice service or Google Assistant at the touch of a button with these headphones, as they are considered voice assistant compatible. And if you took a closer look, you might notice these new grill coverings on the outside of the backside of the ear cups themselves, which is actually protecting and housing the new beamforming microphones built in. This setup is supposed to upgrade the overall microphone quality, and in case you wanted a quick little demo, Here you go. This is what the microphone quality sounds like on the Sony ULT Wear headphones. This is raw audio recorded directly into the iPhone Voice Memos app without any kind of post-production editing. So hopefully this serves as a pretty good example of what you could expect. And side note, you also do get side tone built into these headphones, which essentially means that when you have active noise cancellation turned on and you're about to take a phone call, you will actually be able to hear your own voice in the conversation, which is gonna make the overall conversation so much easier to have on a pair of ANC headphones. And honestly, it's something I think every pair of headphones with ANC should have moving forward. And then last but certainly not least, you are getting some redesigned drivers built into these, which of course is adding to the overall level of bass that you're gonna be getting out of them. So now that we're on the subject there, we might as well talk about it. Arguably the most important part of this review is going to be the sound quality and how these headphones sound when you're actually listening to the music in their different sound modes. The Sony ULT Wear headphones support AAC, SBC, and LDAC audio codecs, Bluetooth 5.2, and multi-point connectivity. You also do have that V1 audio processor that we mentioned earlier working to boost the overall sound quality. Alongside, of course, Sony's DSEE, or Digital Sound Enhancement Engine, which essentially is a way to make compressed audio tracks sound better despite their narrower frequency range. But how does all that translate into actual sound quality? Well, the first thing we have to do is of course go over the new ULT mode button and how it actually cycles through different ULT modes and what those modes are ultimately going to provide you with as it relates to your listening experience. First, we have ULT mode 1, which adds a substantial amount of boost to the low end for a more rumbly bass experience. And then we have ULT mode 2, which delivers even more bass and even more perceived power for overall more punchiness, but just how much bass are those ULT modes actually adding? A lot. I mean, an actual borderline haptic feedback ear massage amount of bass, especially when you're in ULT mode 2. And this isn't really surprising. This is exactly what Sony has promised with this particular pair of headphones, with their ability to produce sub bass as low as 5 hertz on the frequency spectrum. And I know there's arguments out there that the human ear cannot hear below 20 hertz, but listen, I specifically tested frequencies below 20 hertz on the Sony ULT Wears, and even if I technically can't hear them, I most definitely could feel them. So even if I can't technically hear them, I could feel them, and I think that adds to the overall bass effect and presence of massive bass in these bad boys. But unlike other headphones, you're not necessarily locked into that boosted bass if you only wanted to boost it temporarily. Because with the Sony ULT mode button here, you do have the ability of cycling through from ULT 1 to ULT 2 to ULT mode off altogether, which is essentially allowing you to toggle how much bass you want to be added. So with that in mind, and looking at the ULT mode button as a bass boost button, how does the overall sound quality sound? I gotta admit, out of the box, I wasn't super impressed with the overall sound quality. I thought there was a little bit of a dull kind of sound, and that the overall soundstage and separation of instruments seemed kind of muddied. But one thing I love about this pair of Sony headphones and many other Sony headphones is that with the Sony Companion app, you do have a 5-band EQ adjustment that'll allow you to totally tweak these headphones to make them sound the best that they can based on your listening preferences. So what I did is I actually pulled out a little bit more detail and a little bit more emphasis on the high end of the frequency spectrum, which overall gave these a much better balance that I was pretty happy with. Once I made that change, I was liking the level of detail and clarity and overall listening experience that I was getting out of these Sonys. And then the cool thing is, with that ULT button, if I wanted to boost the bass with ULT mode 1 or ULT mode 2, at the touch of a button, I could do that. The Sony ULT Wears are not gonna sound nearly as great as the Sony WH-1000XM5s or the XM4s, but they can provide a pretty solid listening experience when you don't wanna be in one of those ULT mode boosted bass boosted modes. What just happened there? When you don't wanna be in one of those ULT mode bass boosted modes, which I think is most important to understand with the Sony ULT Wears, because then you can look at them as a pretty solid sounding pair of headphones with, like I said, the ability to just quickly boost the bass up to 2 times with those ULT mode options with the ULT mode button. But in terms of battery life, I know you're probably wondering, how long could you actually expect these headphones to last for? Sony is promising up to 30 hours of listening time with ANC turned on, but probably actually a little bit less than that, closer to 25 hours if you're listening with ANC turned on and using the LDAC audio codec. But do keep in mind all those numbers are with an assumed volume at around 50%, which I'm almost never listening at with these headphones. Even still, I would say that I'm pretty confident that I could get all day battery life out of these without any kind of problem. And even if my battery is running low, these do come with a quick charging feature. So if these are at 0%, you just throw these puppies onto the charger, and after a 3-minute charge, you'll get about 90 minutes of listening time. So battery life here, Definitely on par with what we've seen from other Sony headphones, and realistically, I have no complaints. I'm happy with it. But with all this having been said, here are my final thoughts on the Sony ULT Wear headphones and whether or not I think they could be the right pair of headphones for you. Like I've pretty much been saying throughout this entire video, if you're thinking about getting the Sony ULT Wear headphones, just make sure you understand what they are and who they're for so that you're not making a mistake. Because if you want one of the best sounding, most premium listening experiences in a pair of Sony headphones without artificially boosted bass, that's where the XM5s or the XM4s are gonna be a better fit for you. We've reviewed both of those headphones on this channel before, but as it specifically relates to the Sony ULT Wear headphones, if you want that massive amount of bass, and you wanna be able to have that as an option, not 24/7, but when you want it, that's where the Sony ULT Wears really shine. You are taking a slight hit on overall sound quality, even though I think things still sound pretty solid. But if you love your bass and you want the ability to get that bass boosted 1 time or 2 times, that's where these headphones are gonna deliver for you at the touch of that ULT button, and the bass here is no joke. If you're a bass head or even a part-time bass head, Sony ULT Wears could be right up your alley. As always, for the latest deals, prices, promos, and information for the Sony ULT Wear headphones, you can of course always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/ULTwear, or of course you can click one of the clickable links in either the video description box or in the comment section below, so be sure to check those out. And with that having been said, it's actually time for me to go work out, so I'm gonna rock out with the Sony ULT Wear, get the ultimate workout, pump up this bass, pump up my workout, let's go. I will see you guys in my next video.